So here's a thought. They mentioned that Shadesmar isn't a good way to travel, and that the perpendicularities are either unsafe or unstable or both.
Yeah.
So how are
something
people
like
getting
that.
in and out of the different worlds?
Well, I don't think that it's impossible, but like some of them are just more difficult to get to. So, like for example, with Scadrial, the well is gone, so preservation's perpendicularity is gone, and the pits of Hathsin are gone because Kelsier destroyed them, and also Ruin's gone. So, a perpendicularity, the portal, right, the pool that was being formed because of the gathering of all those Metalborns, as they were calling them at the end, that became Harmony's perpendicularity. But nobody would want to use that because Autonomy's armies were there, right? Her army of gold, which I don't believe are people. I think they're robots of a kind, some kind of automatons, so to speak.
Okay, but it's implied that perpendicularities are not how people are getting off world anymore.
I don't think that's what it was. I thought it was that, like, the Nalthians think that it can be used for, like, trade across great distances, but Shai's like, no, it doesn't work that way, no matter what the Nalthians think.
So do you think that they were just saying that because people don't use it the way that they think they're using? Or do you think there's other ways that people are getting on and off world?
I think it's just that the perpendicularities, the portals, the whatevers you want to call them, aren't as... They don't open up as many corridors as I think people hope they would, because yes, it would be really cool if you could trade planet to planet, like actual trade of like goods and food and stuff like that, but the distance of going from one planet to another, even in Shadesmar, is a really long time.
I think it was implied to mean that there are other ways of traveling, and I think that's our second clue. Our first clue is that Hoyd already knows about whatever these other ways are because he keeps jumping from place to place.
Yeah.
Not necessarily using perpendicularities
that has something
or
to do with his luck, which we still haven't delved into, because he does say at one point, he's like, my luck is what gets me where I need to be.
Yes, but luck is also kind of a form of investiture.
It is.
So,
that's something that you can take.
All forms of investiture in Brandon's world can be harnessed.
Yeah.
So maybe a luck portal, for lack of a better term, is a better way of getting from place to place. But I think that was
I do think that there's
a clue as to there's other ways to get across that are probably better.
I do think that there are going to be things like, so portals that are inaccessible right now. So one of them being the forming Harmony portal would have been completely inaccessible to anybody because of Autonomy's army, right? But then there's also something funky's going on with the Horneater Peaks portal, which I think is Cultivation's perpendicularity, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah.
So something weird's going on up there that we know of. What I'm excited for is I think there will be a way to do planet-to-planet trading of food and goods without worrying about them spoiling, because we're going to figure out a way of making either... So, what would you would need... what's Marasi? A pulsar? She can slow down. She speeds up outside time. So I think they're going to figure out a way
maybe using like a grenade, but like a grenade Tupperware.
Well, no.
So where it slows down
the
denigration of the food.
Yeah, but the issue is that right now, if you were to make a bubble on anything like smaller than a train, it won't move with you. If you activate that bubble in a carriage, it won't move. If you activate it on the planet, because the planet's big enough, it kind of just sees itself as part of the planet. So it moves with the planet. but they're going to figure out some way of making these bubbles move with them, and I think they'll be able to figure out, ooh, we can, keep our goods nice and fresh because we're going to put them inside a speed bubble.
Oh, do you think that
or slowness bubble?
Do you think that maybe goes into Brandon's version of cryogenically frozen? Grandpa, we're going to put you in a speed bubble Tupperware to save you until we can figure out how to cure your cancer.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would be really curious. So, a lot of people have agreed with you, kind of going off on this. I know we're totally going off away from the first question, but this tends to be how our conversations go. There's a few people who actually agree with you that Spook is the third person.
I think he is the third person, yeah.
He's been compounding slowness bubble. And so he's letting himself get to a point where he's not much time is passing for him, but the world is passing outside of him, centuries at a time, right? So they think that maybe he's compounding some. What does she use? It's bend alloy for speed and
cadmium or something.
Cadmium? Yeah, that sounds about right. For what she does, the slow bubble. And he's a Mistborn, so he would be able to burn any and all alloys. New, old, base, whatever.
Yeah.
So, that he might come back. So, I think while this maybe wasn't, I don't know, this book kind of ended in a way that was a little unexpected, because there's a lot of stories that got unfinished inside those books. But that's also because supposedly the next jump is only going to be 50 to 60 years, so we're probably going to see
how they ended.
Yeah.
Probably.
But one of them being, it's like, is Autonomy's army still trapped in a slow bubble? I don't think it is. I think when Autonomy was leaving, her forces probably left in Shadesmar as well. We've got who drained the bands of mourning. There's a theory floating around that Sazed himself drained them as in a kind of blackout period of becoming Discord.
I don't know about that. I think that's more has to do with the malcontents. What are they called? The Malwish.
The malcontents.
Yeah. I think it's I agree. More with the Malwish.
So about Harmony becoming Discord as well, Harmony says to Kelsier, he's like, what I do kind of depends on what you do, Kelsier. And so Kelsier, kind of working more up his ghost blood stuff and kind of doing shenanigans, even though, whatever, is going to kind of edge Sazed more towards Discord as well.
Well, I think Kelsier has been, at least in Harmony's mind, his form of Discord, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as the more harmonious things that Kelsier tries to do, the more discordant Harmony feels. He's like, I need to now do some Discord to balance out this.
I don't know, because Kelsier, while he was better in this book than how he comes across as Thydakar and Roshar, he wasn't actually that good of a person even in this book. He debated on letting the Malwish hunter kill Marasi because she said she didn't want to join.
Yeah.
Like, he kind of thought about it a bit. And they're also okay with letting 20 innocent people die to try to chase down the people who are running away. Or at least Shy was. Which kind of makes you think, what about the rest of the Ghostbloods?
Well, Shy is... it's hinted that Shy is basically... what did he say? He said, my best scout, my best lieutenant, my...
Something.
Yeah, it's something. Or a valued member of the team, at least.
Mm-hmm.
But
what's a little frustrating about this 50 to 60 year time skip that will supposedly be between this era and the next, because this was supposed to be more like 1.5, not fully 2. um, is that, so Marasi has said, if you want help hunting down Shay, which is Shai's Elantrian form that she turned herself into, she says, I'm happy to help. But if 50 or 60 years has passed, that feels like a really long time to not talk about, did we find Shai? Did we turn her back? That's a hunt that I want to be part of. I want to be there for.
That is kind of a loose end, isn't it? That's something I didn't think about. I just figure we'll get to it eventually.
Will Shai even? She probably won't age because the Elantrians
don't age. Yeah, they're essentially immortal.
Yeah. So I guess that's one way of doing a time skip without having to worry about killing off Shai herself.
I actually imagine Shai's Elantrian form will appear in a different book. Whether that's Elantris 2, I doubt that because that's kind of far away. Mm-hmm. But I feel like she's going to appear in a different book, and Brandon wanted this character to be that character, so he wrote in this
Shay transformation.
This Shay transformation, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes.
This was definitely an in-between story, which is a little frustrating because Mistborn Era 1 is very well self-contained. So I was expecting this one because we're calling it Era 2, which I only recently learned a few days ago that this was actually meant to be, this was kind of an accident, him writing this series of Wax and Wayne.
For a minute there he called it Era 1.5, and then he just kind of caved. He's like, nah, I guess it's Era 2.
But Era 3 isn't that much further along in the sense of time. And then there will be an Era 4, but I didn't actually know that this was an accident story. In the way that stories are accidental for Brandon.
I don't know. I think that the further along he gets, the less self-contained it will be. Mm-hmm. I've been making a lot of comparisons recently to Marvel.
Sure.
How I think the end of Stormlight Archive 10 will be very much akin to Marvel's Avengers. Where, all these movies have finally coalesced.
Do you mean 5 will be like Avengers and 10 is like Endgame?
Nope. 10. I think 10 will be like Avengers. Hold on, I'm not done yet. 10 will be like Avengers, and Dragonsteel will be like Endgame, in which we will revisit things in the past because it's more of a wit story. And so we'll kind of get the story of the beginning, the middle, and the end as it relates to present-day problems. And I think at that point, in Stormlight Archive 10, is where we truly get what our Thanos is. We'll finally, this is the enemy to the Cosmere, which then leads us into the final era of Mistborn, to solve the enemy of the Cosmere, and then wrapping it up with Dragonsteel, which I think will be the end game that kind of is an epilogue to the story. It's we have all our characters, they're all placed together, Wit's in this final battle, but he's going to wax poetic, as Wit does, and he's going to tell you, in my final moments, let me tell you about where I came from. Let me tell you about where I've been. And then let me tell you what trouble I'm in right now.
Yeah.
And so it'll be very much akin to the Endgame story where they jump back to these different moments in time, but all those moments in time give you context to the current problem. Mm-hmm. And so I think 10, because I think Stormlight Archive is going to be mostly self-contained, but I think 10 is where it's going to be now we're busting open to the Cosmere. If you've read only Stormlight Archive, you understand that there's a wider Cosmere, there's other things going on. And if you stuck around this long, you need to read the other stories.
So, I think Mistborn books, all of them, are going to end up being more Cosmere aware than the other ones are. Because I feel like a lot of people end up there.
Well, I think the longer his series goes on, each book must then become more Cosmere aware. Kind of like the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
The more MCU movies you put out there, and the more stuff that happens to the world, the more stuff you have to self-reference. You're like, okay, that city blew up, this hero did that, this thing happened there. And so as you go along the MCU, the first couple movies are very self-contained. Phase 2, not so much, because now the Avengers know about each other. And then Phase 3 of the MCU was a lot of referencing. It's like, oh yeah, and then this happened here and that happened there. And if you weren't in the know, you didn't know. You're like, I don't know what that means.
Well, so one reason I think Mistborn is going to be more that way is because they're going to be more advanced than anybody when it comes to technology.
Yeah.
And it's already pulled in somebody who's an etherbound, which that was loads of fun.
That was cool, yeah.
It's pulled in Shy, and then, of course, Wit's there. And Autonomy came and tried to attack, and but again, it's mostly because in terms of technology, outpacing like their magic, their technology is going to like destroy their magic. It's just going to be way so far advanced as compared to their magic system. But like Stormlight's kind of, swords and sandals in a sense, even though their magic system is incredibly advanced because they're getting into things like, flying ships even themselves with the joined rubies and all of that Navani's been working on. But I think Mistborn's just going to be more Cosmere aware, probably because the Stormlight people just have so many of their own problems to deal with that they're not really gonna go beyond their own world. Though we know Sig does, because he's in Secret Project 4.
Yeah, I think they will stay on their own world. But I think
anything Cosmere that comes to Stormlight, I think, is going to not be by choice. Whereas with Mistborn people, I think that's going to be all by choice, and there's going to be a lot of it.
Well, I don't think it's by choice. None of the stuff that has appeared on Scadrial was by choice. I disagree with that. I don't think any of the stuff that's Cosmere wherever appears by choice. I think
Kelsier did. Kelsier went out and found stuff and brought it back.
Because he died. I don't think that counts. He was thrust into the Cosmere. That's not by choice. He didn't knowingly become a cognitive shadow. I think it's the other way around. I think that when Stormlight Archive gets into its second series, I think then they are thrust, like, almost bringing high technology to not as advanced people. So I think that at the end of Stormlight Archive, it'll be like giving an airplane to those in medieval times. And I think so they'll be thrust into having this new technology and then what to do with it because they have such raw power that it just becomes something special.
Yeah. Well, and there's even references to Rosharan magic in the Ars Arcanum, because every book gets an update to the Ars Arcanum. And so they reference how you've got like Twinborns, right? And how they can mix their magic together, but how Roshar already does that. Every person who's a Knight Radiant is already mixing two powers.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
So those are our thoughts.
I'm excited to see it.
That's all.
All right. Bye.
Bye.